A question I'll get every once in a while is someone will ask, like, what's the number one thing I got to do to have more lucid dreams? And that's always a kind of hard one to give just a generalized blanket response to, because there's so many things you can do to try and have more lucid dreams. And it's going to vary so much from person to person that you really have to know the person at least a little bit to give them a solid recommendation there. But for me personally, and this is a little bit cheating because I'm already experiencing the practice and I'm also naturally inclined to kind of having lucid dreams, just generally speaking, no matter what. But for me personally, it's just getting a lot of hours of sleep. So I'm talking like 8.5 hours of time actually spent in bed, plus a few other important points here I'll bring up later. But you have to sleep at least or have at least like 8 to 8+ hours dedicated to being in bed, because you have to factor in how long it takes you to fall asleep initially. And then if you get up, in the middle of the night to use a bathroom or waking up out of a REM cycle, on average, how long does it take you to fall asleep after, briefly waking? So all that's going to play a huge role. And that's one aspect of my own personal practice that has taken a humongous hit here for the last year plus, as I've gotten really heavily back into video games, where I've, particularly this past 3 months or so since Modern Warfare 3 has been out, I've probably been getting 5.5-ish hours of sleep a night, just generally speaking, because, kids go to sleep at 8. Then after that, it's time for me and my wife to do whatever, watch a show or do something like that. So then I don't really get to start, playing games or having my own personal time till 10:30, 10 maybe, at the earliest. But then also that's typically when I post my videos too. So say it takes me I know I've been slacking on those posts lately. I've still been shooting videos actually. I've just been too lazy to actually post anything. But, say it takes me half an hour to edit my video, figure out what I want to write, and then post it on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube and whatever. So I don't start playing games at 11. Then my hard cutoff time is 1, because I want to play games for at least a good 2 hours. And so my cutoff time is 11 because, most mornings, if everything goes well, I don't really got to get up until 7 a.m. at the latest, right, to get my kids ready for school and whatever. But then say I lie in bed at 1, takes me half hour to fall asleep, 5.5 hours of sleep, right? So that's been a huge, bad spot for my dreaming practice where, I've been in a pretty heavy lucid dreaming dry spell, or just a dreaming dry spell in general, where I'm definitely having my dreams, but because I'm getting such shit sleep and waking up in such a rush to immediately get my kids ready for school and stuff like that in the morning, that I'm not really recalling any dreams. There's just barely any little snippets of my dreams. And then, once I get up and start getting the kids ready, whatever snippet I had memorized, is poof, gone as well. Which brings up another important point. So not only do you have to get a lot of hours of sleep, but you have to be able to wake up slowly, right? Because even if you're getting up in the middle of the night, like I like to do, if I ever wake up out of a REM cycle, I always like to lie in bed, commit whatever dreams I was having to memory. I don't like to journal in the middle of the night. But even if you do journal in the middle of the night, you still have to lie there in bed and commit it to memory, because by the time you sit up to start writing, if you don't commit it to memory first, it's just going to slip out your mind like that and be gone. So you're going to have to do that anyway. But, so I'll get up in the middle of the night, kind of hold it in my head. Then in the morning, I also will run through everything. So I'll try to run through all the dreams from earlier, commit that to memory, then also whatever dream I was just getting out of, which is why you really got to have that time to really wake up slowly and not have to immediately get ready for work or, start panicking. Like, what time is it? Did I get up too late? Or something like that. And the last 2 nights in a row, actually got really good sleep. So I'm talking 8.5 hours plus of time actually spent in bed. And my dreams were slamming again. On the 13th, this 13th. Yeah, so the 13th, waking up on the 14th, I had a pretty decent lucid dream, and it's been a while since I had one of those, so that was kind of nice. And then also on Valentine's Day, of course, video games got to take a backseat on Valentine's Day. So after me and my wife finished doing whatever we were doing, when she went to sleep at 10, 10:30 or whatever, I was sure not to play games and follow her to bed like a good husband should do. And my dreams were going off last night as well. I did have a really short, momentary lucid dream, which I almost wouldn't even really count as lucid, because it was the dream was breaking down so much in such a delicate state that it was really only moments long. But nonetheless, it was cool to have 2 nights in a row of a lucid dream, at least some form of it, because it's been so long. Another thing that I did too on the 13th is I took B6 for the first time in a long time, time release B6. And, I had a ton of dreams, and one kind of okay, decent-ish lucid one. So that was really cool. So when I went to sleep, Last night, I was sure, like, okay, like I don't want to take it again. I want to see if my dreams are just as firing as they were, 2 nights ago. So I didn't take it. My dreams were going off last night, but I did seem to have better dream recall, or the dreams seemed to be a bit more vivid the first night when I took this. So again, as I've said, years ago when I used to post about B6 a lot, I think this still is my favorite lucid dreaming supplement, or so, if you want to call it that. And then also, because I was digging in my cabinet, I found my old bottle of galantamine. And man, I really barely ever take this shit. Where like this has still got, more than half in here. And so I tried to look at it. So this expired like February 2023, but I actually bought it back in like 2020. So this shit is old as hell. But nonetheless, I do like galantamine. I do think it works. It's like probably the most powerful lucid dreaming supplement they have out there. Problem for me is it kind of fires up my brain too much, and it doesn't last that long. So you got to do it in conjunction with Wake Back to Bed. And then if I do it with Wake Back to Bed, pretty often it just fires my brain up too much and keeps me awake in bed for like, an hour or more. And then that's about how long the half-life of this stuff is. So then by the time I do fall asleep, it's not really working that well. I don't tend to get lucid. But if you can fall asleep quickly on galantamine, this is probably the best one to use. Still wouldn't want to use it all the time. I mean, I wouldn't even really want to be taking like time release B6 like every single night, for like a month or months in a row. But I think this would probably be safer to take because it is just a vitamin, at least way more consistently than you'd want to be popping galantamine all the time. But anyway, so to sum it up, the number one thing that I would say, at least for me, and of course I would probably recommend this to a lot of people as well, is get a lot of sleep, a lot of time dedicated to actually lying in bed. So if it takes you an hour to fall asleep, then you probably got to dedicate like a good 9 hours or so to actually being in bed. The other thing you have to get into the habit of is immediately recalling your dreams. So ideally, this will include coming up out of REM. I think as you get more in tune to this, there's pretty often where as my dreams are ending, especially if I'm really locked in on them, I'll realize them ending. Or like even if I'm not lucid, I'll just realize, oh wait, it'll end. I'll come back up and realize, oh, that was a dream. And then I could fall asleep really quickly right after that. But when you get used to doing that, you want to at least stay awake a little while and start committing that dream to memory so you can, hold on to it and then dream journal and do all that stuff, fall back asleep. But then definitely in the morning, on top of getting 9 hours of sleep, and I know this is a hard thing to dedicate to this practice, but then you also want to make sure that you have time to wake up very slowly after you initially wake in the morning to specifically immediately recall the dreams that you were having in your head, commit them to memory as much as you can. Then also, if you can, of course, dream journaling, because of course dream journaling is like one of the pillars of the practice and all that stuff. But yeah, so that would be my main recommendation there. And also time release B6 works great as well too. And with that said, that'll wrap it up. Until the next video, keep the lucid dreaming practice legit.